Hey guys, Aussie Beaut here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to change your belts on your 1HZ motor. This is in my HZJ78R, it's my troop carrier. Love the thing, but I've noticed a bit of a squeak coming from the belts, so I've decided I bought a few more belts. So these ones here are going to be for your bottom ones, these are going to be for like your alternator, like they're going to be alternator belts and so on, and then up there that's going to be your Serpentine belt, which is this big belt here. So yeah, basically I'm just going to be showing you guys how to change both those two belts there and this belt here. So we'll start off by this belt here, which is the easiest one to do. Now when I first looked at this belt, I thought it was a bit tricky because I thought I would actually have to take the fan out in order to actually access the belt and actually get it out. That's not the case at all. All you literally have to do, that there, so that there is going to be your tensioner, pulley. All you'll need to do is adjust that bolt there, so loosen it, just so it's loose and you can actually move it around. And then that bolt on the top, you're going to want to adjust it because that there is going to be a bolt that basically adjusts this entire pulley up and down. And you know, once you move it down a bit more into the engine, or zoom out a bit more, you can actually take the belt right off, and I'll show you how to do that right now. Now we're going to jump in here with a 14mm. We're just going to want to jump right in on this nut here, get right onto it. You're just going to want to crack it loose like this. So pull towards you, and that's loosened it, so I can take that off. And then now that bolt there, I can twist with my hand and I can actually move it with my fingers. And again, we're going to go with the 14mm. I've upped the size of the wrench, no particular reason, except for the fact that now you've got a lot of space, so you can actually get a full angle in there where you can basically just keep, you know, loosening this nut. And you're going to want to keep twisting it like that. Eventually, after you've done it a few times, you can just loosen it by hand until eventually. And then you loosen it like that, and then this will drop down, so it will be up there, and as you can see, I'll loosen the bolt so the thread's gone down, and then like that, so you can basically just move that up and down, slide off your belt, and then you're good to go from there. Now when you get to this part here, the fan's going to be in the way. That's no problem, it's literally as easy as threading it around the prongs, rotating the fan a bit more. Be careful not to damage your radiator at all, and just keep going around the fan until you've got it all the way around. And then just with a bit more persuasion, you can pull your belt straight out like that. Throw that down there. We don't need it anymore because we've got this one here. But you don't want to put this belt in just yet, because you're going to want to remove these belts here, which are going to be located all the way down there. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now to remove those two, you're going to want to jump down under the vehicle. My vehicle has a bash plate underneath, so I'm going to have to remove that real quick.
Approximately 10 hours later.
There should be only a few kind of bolts holding in your bash plate. So for mine, one there, one there, one there, one there, and two up the front there. It's as easy as that. Take it out. You've got plenty of access underneath your vehicle to access the bottom of the alternator, which is what you're going to be working on. So now that you've cleared out the bash plate and you can get under your vehicle, we're going to look up, we're going to see the alternator, and that nut there is the one that you're going to be wanting to take off, because what that'll do is once you loosen that nut, not take off, loosen, that will swivel or pivot the entire alternator inwards in towards the body, and that'll make it a lot easier to get the belts off. And for that one there, you guessed it, it's another 14mm. You're going to want to crack it onto that there and just crack it loose. But if you're like me and you couldn't get it off with just a standard ratchet, resort to a breaker bar. Just going to slide that on like that, and then I'm going to come through the top right here next to the fan, just pull it, break it loose, and now that should be good to go out with a ratchet. And like I said, the breaker bar made it so much easier to get off, so we'll just loosen that nut out a bit. And once that's pretty loose, like roughly about that, then you're going to want to move up to the bolt, which is going to be up the top of the alternator, which is going to be facing that way. So it's going to be facing inwards towards the vehicle. So it's exactly like this, just on the top. Alrighty, so now that you're back on the top, you're going to be looking at the top of the alternator. Now, I'm going to show you right here. Those two bolts you're going to want to undo. So that one that's just there by the tip of my finger, which is now taking the focus, and that one down there. Now, a little bit of a trick is to undo that bolt a fair amount. Reason being is once you've done that and loosened that a whole heap, that makes it a lot easier to undo the bolt that is just there. Reason being is because this kind of block, like this little kind of brick thing, I'll show you. You undo the bolt a bit, Once you undo the bolt, that will fall out of place, and don't worry if this happens, it's meant to happen. Where it came from, you can actually fit the bolt back in there. It's got a thread on the inside there where you can actually adjust the alternator sideways. But the reason that you adjust that and loosen it as much as you can is so that you can then slide this along like that, so then you can then align this bolt back with that hole, and then you can put it back in, do it back up. But with all those bolts done, as you can see now, I can start to push my alternator in. It takes a bit of time to do, but a bit of effort, you can push it in, and as you can see, these now starting to get really slack, starting to get really slack, starting to get really slack. I hope to God that hit the ground. They always land in the trickiest of spots. I'm going to place that right on the table, as you should, with all your tools, your nuts and bolts. Make sure you don't leave anything in the engine bay. Back here under the engine bay, as you can see, I've got my alternator in a fair bit so that I can take these belts off. But if you need to push it in just a bit further, get your breaker bar again, lean it up against the top there. Do not lean it against the hosing itself, lean it up against the part of the metal hosing, and then lean it up against the bottom of the alternator and just push in. Alrighty, and that's just nudged it in a bit more. So now hopefully we can easily just take our belts off. That's one. Again, we're gonna have to go over the fan again. Just only got a screwdriver because this last one's been a bit stubborn. Probably push the alternator in a bit further. Slide it off the side like that. And then you've got both of them there. Same procedure as before, over the fan, and then you're good to go. Make sure that they're all slack. Like that, and these ones here are a bit bigger, so it just makes it a bit easier. Over the fan, just keep on through, like that. Alright, there, and they're out. That's the old ones out. Now we can start putting the new ones in. To get the belts back on, it's the exact opposite. Just feed it into the fan over each prong. Just basically just rotate the fan around. Just keep doing it. It's hard to do one-handed, but we make do. Alrighty, so that's on there like that. Now it's important that you make sure that you get this correct. So remember, 2 on the bottom and then 1 on the top. So there's going to be 1 going along here on these ones here. So that's going to be the Serpentine belt, and then down there you've got your water pump, you've got your AC, and you've got your alternator. The easiest way to do this is put it around the bottom pulley first, then the second one, and then the alternator. So don't put it straight into the second groove when you do the first belt. You're going to put it into the very, very first groove, so that groove there. And then you're going to want to put it into this first groove there, and then you're going to want to put it over the first groove of the alternator, and then you're going to want to work the first belt on from there, because it will allow for a lot more slack and a lot more tension. Rightio, so just finished there. I will say this, it is a bit of a pain to do. I would highly recommend, if you can get another person to help you do it, then do it. Pulley here, so this one at the top is quite easy to do. I did that all like by myself, took me like 5 seconds. Those ones down there took me a while, I'm not gonna lie, about an hour roughly. I'll basically tell you how we did it real quick. So loosen the alternator, push the alternator in as far as it will go. What I did was I got a breaker bar. I basically pressured up the side here of the air filter box, and then up against the alternator, and then pull the top in like that. So then it will push the alternator into the actual motor as far as it will go. Then basically after you've done that, I'm just gonna jump on the bull bar here. What you're gonna wanna do to get the first belt on, which is a bit of a pain, you gotta get 2 of these on, don't forget. You're gonna wanna put the top belt all the way over, so not on the pulley, but past the pulley. What that'll do is that'll pull it half on. And then what we did was we actually grabbed the pulley with our hands, and we rotated it So that way when you rotate, not the fan, but basically you grab it and you pull it and it will rotate. On petrols this is a bit easier, but on diesels, this being a 1.8Z, it's a diesel, so yeah, the compression that's actually in it is a bit harder. So yeah, basically just grab it and let the actual momentum of you pulling like the pulley along pull the actual belt into place. And same goes with the second one as well, except we just put them in the first one, so down there on that one, and then down there on the alternator, and then onto that pulley there, and then into place. Just to make things a little bit easier, if you completely, this nut here, for this top pulley here, if you completely undo that nut, you can actually take this pulley out, give you a bit more room so you can actually fit your hand in there to actually properly grab that pulley and, you know, pull it over, adjust it and do what you need to do. And then for this serpentine belt, it's just going along the top here, quite easy to do. Just go along with the fan here, so straight through like that, like you normally do. So it's the opposite of taking it out. You just put it on the fan, rotate it around until it goes in behind the fan, slide it onto the bottom one, onto that one there, and then onto this top pulley here. And then basically just go through, adjust this nut, and basically just tension it all the way back up. And then once it's midway up, you're going to want to tighten this up as far as it will go. What that'll do is that'll bring it upright, and then that'll basically make it straight and not wobbly. And then basically just tension this nut up here the rest of the way. You don't want it too tight. That could lead to problems in the future. So yeah, not absolutely tight, but tight enough so that there's not really that much slack in the actual belt. Rightio guys, and that's pretty much all there is really to it. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me. But yeah, that's roughly about it. Don't forget to put your under bash plate back on. Make sure that you've got no nuts left over. If you do, then you've missed one. Make sure all your pulleys and everything is tensioned up correctly. All the alternator is done properly. If you've taken any parts out, make sure you put them back in. And yeah guys, if you found this helpful, please let me know, and I'll continue to make more of these videos in the future.